And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today. We'll take a look at the news, have a little bit of dialogue with those of you who were able to join us for the live portion. And of course, if you are listening somewhere else and you would like to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube on both Coffee Talk and Prepper University, and that's at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat, and you can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta, Monday through Friday. So, as always, I do try to read through as many of the comments as is reasonable, and I'll say hello to some of the people that have chosen to drop in and say hi so far. See Helter here today, as well as Dragon, Legends, Monkey, Marvelous Cards from Rome, Georgia, he says. Brian is here, as well as JJ, as we get ready to jump off and see what is going on in our wacky world this afternoon. It's afternoon where I am anyways. And again, no cats in the room. No cats in the room. I am without cats again today. Or for the moment anyways, because you never know. You never know. They might pop in and say hi, and then I can grab somebody. But starting off, of course, I'm sure a lot of you are aware that Kamala Harris, did her interview on Charlemagne's podcast. I refuse to say the entire title of how he refers to himself. I think it's extremely arrogant. Charlemagne is enough. Charlemagne is more than enough. USA Today article, and it says the five takeaways from the Harris and Charlemagne interview. Harris says she remains open to reparations in the interview with Charlemagne. Here's her 5 greatest moments, if you can call any of it greatest moments. It's almost it seems like a waste of time to read through any of it, because it's the same things that she says in every softball interview that she's been led to in the last few weeks. She repeats herself over and over and over. And Charlemagne, even kind of in his own wishy-washy softball sort of way, called her on it when he said, "Doesn't it seem like you're repeating yourself?" To which point, and I'm paraphrasing, she suggests you have to say the same things over and over again to people because it's the only way it'll sink in, aka people are stupid, which she has publicly said. Well, she said young people are stupid, actually. That was an old interview of hers. Or it was in a speech, actually. I think that was a speech. Young people are stupid, which I'm not going to argue with. They are. Old people are pretty stupid too. People of all ages are kind of dumb, unfortunately. But she does repeat herself. But more to the point of just having the same talking points over and over again is the problem with verbatim repeating exactly what's said. You go to give a speech in Delaware, and then the next day in Philadelphia, you repeat the exact same lines word for word with no alteration. People are going to catch on to that. I mean, you can say the same thing over and over again or make the same talking point. And I can understand where if you're running for public office, you might have to do that. But that's not what she does. She verbatim repeats everything. Marvelous says, so much cringe and BS coming from Kamala and the left. Anything to get votes from the desperate and easily deceived. pretty much. But again, here's the talking points. Did it? Hold on a second, because it's acting up. Okay. So the 5 big takeaways from the interview with Charlemagne. Harris remained open to reparations for slavery and agreed with an accusation that Trump supports fascism in a wide-ranging interview Tuesday with popular radio host Charlemagne. You know what? This is a margin of error race. It's tight. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. But it's tight, Harris told listeners at the top of an hour-long interview 3 weeks before Election Day, as the Democratic nominee expands her outreach to black voters, in particular black men, which I don't understand why they consider the black vote as it is to be so important. I've talked about this before. And I see that D'Lo has joined us, as well as Cyberjack. Glad you could make it today, Cyberjack Sr. If the demographic of black people, as it were, in the United States, according to the U.S. Census, is a hair below 13%. And you figure, what, 60, 65% of them are probably voting age, just guessing on that, right? And maybe half of them will go to the polls. What are you left with? I mean, is that vote that important? Helder says, why should people who never owned slaves pay money to people who never were slaves? Not to mention welfare is reparations. Ask Kamala, ask Biden, ask any of these politicians. But yeah, I mean, it's a reasonable argument. Dragon says reparations, it needs to be studied, meaning she has spent 0 minutes thinking about reparations. It needs to be studied. Harris would be the first black female president if elected, has sharpened her pitch to African American voters, a critical Democratic constituency, while polling suggests Trump has made inroads with black male voters. Yeah, well, so here's the takeaways, and we're going to pick it apart a little bit. Number one, and again, she says the same thing at every softball pitch interview that she does. It doesn't matter. You go listen to the one from Howard Stern. Go listen to any of them. Go listen to her on Jimmy Kimmel or whoever the hell. It's all the same rhetoric. It's the exact same talking points over and over and over. Harris says slavery reparations must be studied. Well, it is being studied. It has been for how long? And everybody studies it and then decides that, yeah, this ain't plausible. It's not going to work. It's not going to work for a variety of reasons we don't have to get into in extreme detail today, but it can't work. So yeah, we'll waste more tax money studying it so that we can someday study it again. Charlemagne alleges Trump's vision is about fascism, and Harris agrees. That was set up. Historically, fascism is a far-right authoritarian political ideology often associated with Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, who rose to power after World War I and coined the term in 1919 to describe his political movement. Yeah, if you're a historian, then you might quote Benito Mussolini, but most people nowadays don't even know who that was. Go ask your average 30-year-old who Mussolini was. Huh? Is that the guy who makes the pasta sauce? They don't know. But yeah, he said fascism because Charlemagne is a suck-up, and she agreed. Big surprise. Harris pushes national marijuana legislation because, you know, the Democratic leadership think that black people, males in particular, schlep around all day smoking weed and ditching work and school. And whereas A, unfortunately, that is acceptable within black culture, and B, there are a lot of people who do that. That does not represent all black people. And the demographic of people that would be encouraged by that, I bet you they ain't going to vote. I bet you. Betcha. Isn't that what, what's her name? From Sherry Lewis. I betcha. Whoever saw the Lamb Chop show. Bernab is here. Glad you could make it. And then all people, of course, 9 out of 10 blacks in the U.S. are not continental U.S. slavery survival descendants that qualify for reparations, if you can even track them down or sort them out. There's very few who do, many of which already received reparations generations ago. So, and they're not the ones that are asking for anything. Monkey said yesterday they saw a sign that said basically President Biden Rescue America bill in action, and it's just a single paved road for the houses. And Brian says the deuce, as some call him. And Justin thinks pasta sauce is funny. Yeah, Mussolini pasta sauce. There you go. Mussolini cannolis. Mussolini's pizza joint. Yeah, I mean, you ask the man on the street, do you know who Mussolini was? Oh, yeah, man, that's that guy from that pizza shop. They don't know. They have no freaking clue. That's that band. They play punk music. And all people, of course, blacks who demand reparations are not even survivors or descendants. Of course not. Monkey says Mussolini's great-granddaughter is in the Italian parliament for a fun fact. Interesting. Doesn't surprise me. And imagine my surprise has joined us. Glad you could make it. Bernard says, let's prosecute and defund the police. Okay. I'll do it myself. Break into my house and see. Next takeaway. Harris says disinformation has distorted record with black community. Basically, how does it go? It says Harris defended her record addressing issues that largely impact black voters, arguing mis and disinformation has distorted reality. Quote, that's just not true. Harris said when asked about assertions she would not do anything specifically for black Americans if elected. One of the biggest challenges that I face is mis and disinformation. Why? You have a hard time coming up with enough of it? I would have thought that if she was gonna, I thought this was going somewhere else. She's claiming that the disinformation or misinformation is that she's not going to help black people. Well, she's not going to help anybody. Let's just put it right there. But I would have thought the question would be about how she behaved as prosecutor, which, by the way, now that the records are all out there, her prosecution records when she was district attorney in California are actually not that good. She didn't do a very good job at all. And I don't even think he asked her about that. Talk about softball. Harry likes Maya Rudolph's SNL caricature. So one of his real hardball questions was asking if she was insulted by Saturday Night Live. I'm sorry, SNL, because we don't say Saturday Night Live anymore. Making fun of her hurt her little feelings. And she said, oh, no, I think it's cute. That's what happened. That's the hardball question. Thank you so much for nothing. She didn't answer any questions. And Urban Angst is here. Glad you could make it. All the way from Canada. Bernard says our country needs everyone to go out and vote. This is the tipping point, in my opinion. Oh, and I got to read this to you. I got a letter from the people who vote. Marvelous says the left is counting on a large portion of the younger generation to vote left because many are insecure and easily manipulated. That's why they pay TikTokers, celebrities, and rappers to push their nonsense. Brian says some guy claimed he was a history buff but didn't know who Franco was. I see League of Smoke and Fluke Man have joined us. Happy to see you today. I'll put that up there really quickly about Harris. I want to get this letter. Because, it's election time. We get a ton of political propaganda. We get more political propaganda in the mail in Georgia than we ever did when we lived in Illinois. But I'll read this, okay? I don't want to show all of it. Can I show? Yeah, I can show, I've got the letter right here, but I don't want to show too much of it because the address is stamped all over it. But this came in the mail for my wife yesterday, who she does not vote. She does not vote. And they're trying to intimidate her. It says, I'm writing you because according to public voting records, it seems that you have missed recent elections. In fact, you are voting less often than almost 66% of voters in your state. Oh no. This election, improve your voting record. All caps, bold lettering. Cast your ballot by Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. Whichever candidate you support, your choice is an important one for our future. And then it gives you voting options and tells you where things are in relation to where we're living. And then it says bold and cap again. This is the intimidation factor. Remember, who you vote for is private, but whether or not you vote is public record. When we check the voter records after the election, we hope to have the chance to thank you for doing your part as a citizen. To better understand why people vote, we may call on you to discuss your voting experience. Really? Come here. Come on over here and talk to me and see how I act. See how I act. Dragon says, surprisingly enough, Mussolini's granddaughter was a Japanese pop idol in the 80s. Really? And Monkey says, if you need to mark out your address to show us, you can. I think you guys get the idea. And if you're in Georgia, you might have gotten a letter like this. And apparently a lot of people didn't vote in the last election because she's less than 66% of voters in the area. Remember, who you vote for is private, but whether or not you vote is public record. We'll be watching you. When we check the voter records after the election, we hope to have the chance to thank you for doing your part as a citizen. Oh my God. Oh my God. All People points out here, Harris once put some black woman in jail because the lady's kid missed too much school from being hospitalized with sickle cell, and the mother notified the school the entire time. That's incredible. JJ says, who the hell are these douchebags sending a letter like that? This came from Voter Publication Center, nonprofit. Voter Publication Center. Legend says that Ohio sends a lot of mail too. However, I wouldn't be shocked if Georgia is worse. They're worse than Illinois. That's what surprises me. Monkey says, I remember my social studies teacher back in high school that said, if you don't vote in the election, shut up about your opinion. It wasn't exactly that, but basically not voting makes your opinion not important. In fact, not voting means you're disappointed with the choices, so it's still an opinion. And I agree with that. I agree with that. If I do not want to be in the position of being forced to choose between the lesser of two evils. And a lot of people feel that way, so they're like, I don't want to bother. I don't like either of these people. There is no right choice here. Or they could have a religious reason for it. They could have a religious reason for it. And League says they're from Georgia and they've been blowing up the phone, and they went off on it. Good. Give them what for, Legends, or League, excuse me. And Bernard says you sound like the evil sheriff of Nottingham. Yeah, I know. That's what I should do. Yeah. Remember, to better understand why people vote, we may call on you after the election to discuss your voting experience. Ta! Oh my God. Imagine says, whenever I receive a letter about voting, I black out the address window and write unclaimed and send it back. There you go. Waste their postage. But it's not their postage. It's yours because your tax money paid for it. Your tax money is paying for this. Your tax money is paying for these letters. But this one just knocked my socks off. And then My wife is like, see, this is why I ain't going to vote. She's like, I'm not going to vote. And this is why right here. Try to intimidate me into voting. Watch. Oh my God. Fluke Man says, if I had to guess, would have mistaken SNL for supporters because of the acronym NFL, NBA, MLB. If you hadn't said it's Saturday Night Live. Well, I'm surprised they would pick on Harris at all because they've been just disgustingly liberal for nearly 3 decades. They're outlived their usefulness anyways. The days of Saturday Night Live being funny or being any kind of a cultural phenomenon, because it was when it started. In the 70s and early 80s, it was a cultural phenomenon. People used to have watch parties for it. They couldn't get enough of it. Those days are long gone, and it's long since died and should have been canceled and just left in the memory hole for people to reminisce about. Hey, you remember Saturday Night Live? Kind of like Monty Python, the old Monty Python show. Thank God they never brought that back. People still love that show because they knew when the hell to stop. Monkey says it's better not to vote and not know than it is to vote on something and have no idea what you're voting on. I'll give you that. Sven says, had a politician stop to talk, I informed her that just by virtue of her being a politician makes her a racist turd. Oh, no. Monkey said, also, isn't that voter intimidation, which is highly illegal? It should be, but yeah, that is a form of intimidation. My wife actually said bullying, but I said coercion. But, because it's not quite bullying. It'll be bullying if they show up at the front door, and then I'll deal with it. I don't want her to deal with that. And Rodney made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Rodney. He says, here's a buck for the hilarious Sheriff of Nottingham impersonation. Was it the Sheriff of Nottingham, or I suppose it could be the Sheriff of Nottingham, whoever you want it to be. Some old seriously overacted thespian voice. But thank you, Rodney. Much appreciated. Marvelous says it's like we're living in the Twilight Zone episode called Attack of the Zombie Libtards, where they keep bombarding us with endless lies and BS. The corruption is blatant and out of control. No kidding. And I'm tired of it. And it's like we all know we're being lied to. Fluke Man says, like Oprah Winfrey, as we get on here. Because, speaking of being lied to, I'll hit you with Kamala Harris again. We talked about this yesterday, but they've expanded on this because the more they investigate, the more they find. Western Journal article, Kamala Harris hit with another plagiarism allegation a day after the scandal erupts. We can keep this going. A new plagiarism allegation has been raised against Vice President Kamala Harris as the efforts of the New York Times to support Harris have widened the controversy. On Monday, conservative activist Christopher Rufo posted 5 allegations of plagiarism from her 2009 book, Smart on Crime, A Career Prosecutor's Plan to Make Us Safer, which was co-authored with Joan O.C. Hamilton. Let me fix that for you. Joan O.C. Hamilton did not co-author it. She ghost wrote the book. These politicians do not write books. They don't write anything. It's just like with these mega church pastors. You don't really think Joyce Myers wrote 700 books, do you? You don't think that name your person, Joel Osteen, wrote like 1,000 books, do you? Or T.D. Jakes. They don't write those books. They write down a few ideas, hand them to a ghostwriter, and then they do it. Same with these politicians. Do you really think that Hillary Clinton wrote all those books, or Barack Obama? They're not writing shit. They're not writing anything. Chris said SNL is not dead. It's just resting. Okay. Monty Python dead parrot sketch. There you go. This parrot is demised. This is a dead parrot. Jericho said, what did I miss? Lost track of time. And Legend says, I looked up the name of the sheriff of Nottingham. The actor was the late Pat Bertram. Okay. And Hasdrubal has joined us. Thanks for popping in today. So we read about this. There were 5 allegations of plagiarism, but as they have continued to unravel this, they have found many, many more. New York Times filed a report that rose to Harris's defense, writing that none of the passages in question took the ideas or thoughts from another writer, which is considered the most serious form of plagiarism. Instead, the sentences copy descriptions of programs or statistical information that appear elsewhere. So instead of plagiarizing a writer directly, she plagiarized a citation from something else, which is still plagiarism. That's not much of a defense. Rufo fired back with more excerpts. We can keep this going for a while. And what he has shown here, and here's Kamala Harris versus Megan's Law, California.gov. And all the red portions are identical from her book versus what's on the website and still on the webpage. And she changed the word some to the word a. So in this entire paragraph, one word was changed as an example. Oh, and Gary Edwards is here as well. Sven says Joel Osteen wrote How to End Up in Help Thinking What the F. So I catch up a couple more comments here really quickly. Flukeman says, like Oprah Winfrey show, in the show, it was a great show to watch. They hardly talk about race, but when they did, she was really relaxed and did not say anything anti-white. Now she's a racist scammer nut. Well, once she made enough money, she could let her true colors show. Marvelous says, in my area, we had 4 or 5 younger people with clipboards doing political door knocking, likely working for the left. Nobody was answering the door, including me. No, why would you? Why would you? And Gary Edwards is here. Did I say hi to Gary? Dragon says AI is more authentic than she is. Rodney says Kamala is the epitome of corrupt, vacuous politicians who have their strings pulled by the man behind the curtain. Helter said she has responded with, I was raised in a middle-class family. Of course. But bottom line, here's an important quote from this. Because remember, Weber, I think it's Weber, right, is the guy who's been doing the research on this. He's a professional at weeding out plagiarism in writings. So far, he's found 28 examples with Harris and counting. It started with 5, now it's 28. It says Harris copy pasted a Wikipedia article into her book, Smart on Crime. In total, this documentation highlights 27 fragments of plagiarism in her book. I thought it was 28. Plagiarism fragments can be proven from page 10 to page 185. So she was cutting and pasting right out of Wikipedia. Kamala Harris copied virtually an entire Wikipedia article into her book without providing any attribution to Wikipedia. Kamala Harris also fabricated a source reference, inventing a non-existent page number. He wrote, also noting the self-promotional content from Goodwill Industries was copied verbatim without citing the source. In many other instances, even where a source was cited with a footnote, the text was directly copied and pasted without using quotation marks. Quotation marks would have been the most transparent and honest approach, also in non-academic books. Incredible. And she'll get away with it. Gary says, if you're going to steal, steal from the best. Exactly. Exactly. I'll put that up there from all people really quick if anybody wants to read that. Talking about reparations again. But I mean, you're going to directly copy and paste out of Wikipedia, because Lord knows that's reliable. Sometimes it is. It depends on what you're looking for. Sometimes Wikipedia is okay. Sometimes I wouldn't trust it. Like here's one from the CDC. Kamala Harris on the left, CDC on the right. All the sections in red were copied directly with no alteration. And she never cited them. She never cited anybody. And her camp is blaming the ghost writer, but the ghost writer only works with the material that they're given. So she assembled the book for her, and she might add anecdotes, but she's not going to add critical information. You know what I mean? Imagine says, I imagine Harris isn't smart enough to do the plagiarism herself, and her staff had to do the plagiarism for her. Possibly. Gary says Wikipedia is not the best. And Brian says Wikipedia is liberal driven. And there's Country Living. Running late today, they said. Glad you could join us. But yeah, more plagiarism. They're up to, I believe, 28 and counting with the plagiarism. I wonder if I can show this video clip real quick. There's something I wanted to show. Okay. And it might be, it might be hard to see. I'm going to see if I can blow. All right. Let me stop that. It's kind of hard to understand. I'm going to walk you through it because I took the audio off. That's Kamala Harris. This is her. Where did they say that she was? Where did they say that she was? I think this is her. I know she's visiting a hurricane zone. All right. And the caption says lights, camera, action. Because she's standing on the sideline there. They set her up. And then they positioned her and told her where to go. And then she's acting like she's talking. You see? Is this where I stand? Yes. Okay, let's go. For the rolling cameras. Basically, her being in the hurricane zone was staged for film and photo op. And then she left very quickly. Which doesn't surprise me because that's what a lot of these politicians do. That's what that clip is. She's being cued, and the area that she's supposed to walk in has been set up for her. I'm not sure where this video clip was used in the media, but it was supposed to make it seem like, and you see her with the FEMA jacket, supposed to make it seem like she's, in the trenches and trying to help and all of that. Because she's a phony. They all are. Country Living says, wow, a whole 15-minute visit to a disaster zone. What a leader. Fluke Man says, can she be sued or settle out of court? The people that she plagiarized would have to go after her. Whoever she plagiarized would have to pursue it. But it's enough that she did it and it's been exposed for it. Again, as you recall, some years ago when Biden ran for president the first time, he was caught plagiarizing his speeches, and the Democratic Party asked him to step down from running for president. Nowadays, not so much. Rodney says, Wikipedia stopped sending me emails asking for donations after I replied that they are owned by corporate and political interests. Quite a satisfying result. Interesting. Interesting. Let me see here. All People says the tiny number of blacks that are true slave descendants can easily prove their lineage, as the slave records were impeccable, and most descendants are born in wedlock and can prove who they are. Yeah, there you go. Gary says lights, camera, Kamala in a crowded theater. Fluke Man says, was this filmed in Hollywood rather than Florida? I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that was filmed. Now, this is something that they've been blowing up in the media, but I don't know that it's going anywhere. That's Nathan Wade. He's back. You remember Nathan Wade, don't you? You remember Nathan Wade. Who remembers Nathan Wade? Poor Nathan. Poor Nathan. His Willie man got insulted in open court and televised. Kimberly says, sickening. I'm sure having to utilize anger management on this on the daily news. Oh wow, League. I'll put that up, but I'm not going to read that. She didn't get me. Augusta News, WRDW, former Fulton County Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade to testify before Congress. There he is, the guy who can't satisfy a woman. Because you remember the Fulton County DA said, I'm not going to put a publicly dressed down a black man, but, and then referenced that he wasn't very good in bed in open court. Poor guy. So here we are. Former Fulton County Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade is expected to testify Tuesday before a U.S. Congressional Committee about his relationship with District Attorney Fani Willis. Both Wade and Fani Willis, back in the day, by the way, would have been brought out to the gates of the city and stoned to death. Her as a fornicator and him for cheating on his wife. Him for being an adulterer. DA Willis is urging her former flame not to testify specifically about anything that could compromise the Georgia indictment against former President Trump. In a letter to the U.S. House Judiciary Committee, Willis said her office has instructed Wade not to talk about confidential or privileged information that may jeopardize her investigation against the former president. Willis states that Wade has knowledge of, quote, highly sensitive and confidential information regarding this ongoing criminal matter. So she's trying to get around him to keep him from talking. And I don't know how he could know anything. He got paid damn near $1.5 million as the special prosecutor or a special investigator and barely on record put in 8 hours of work. You remember reading all of this months ago. Willis hired Wade as a special prosecutor. That was absolutely nepotism because they were sleeping together. In the Georgia interference case after the 2020 election, Wade stepped down from the case after Fulton County Superior Court judge ruled he would need to resign in order for Willis to stay on the case. This after both admitted to a personal relationship. After this came to light, Wade was vocal about it, saying their relationship was not a mistake. Quote, what I believe is this whole conversation is a distraction. That's all. It's a tool to stop the train, slow down the inevitable, which is the trial of the defendant's name in the election interference case, Wade said. Oh, no picture of Fani? In the previous interview, Wade goes on to believe that the public has, through the testimony and other interviews, the public has a clear snapshot that this is clearly just a distraction. All of it's a distraction. All of it's a distraction. But I mean, he, as a special investigator, because he was Fani's side piece, got paid nearly $1.5 million in taxpayer money to do basically nothing. And then when she was in court, made fun of his difficulty to perform as a man. Dragon says he will say, huh, what? I don't recall when he stands before Congress. Exactly. Gary says old news recycled into dirty underwear. Indeed. But yeah, it's absolutely a distraction. People were wondering if he was still alive. No one heard from him since that happened. But he could retire off what he made as the special investigator. He don't need to do anything else. He was well paid for his services, despite the fact that she complained about them. That's about the size of it. That's about the size of it, which also apparently isn't very big, according to Fani. She really dressed him down in court. She really dressed him down in court and attacked his manhood in court, which was highly inappropriate. Opened the floodgates for people like me to pick on him. Because it is all ridiculous. I'm more so, I don't care about all that. I mean, that's all cute and it's fun to make fun of. But bottom line, this bogus charge that she perpetuated, the nepotism, the fact that she is a fornicator, that she got involved with a married man, that she paid him a fortune out of public funds, has the nerve to go and run the circuit with the local Black Atlanta megachurches. It's incredible, the nerve. How does it go? If I had her nerve in my tooth, I wouldn't be able to stand the pain. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. That's all what infuriates me. That so much of the taxpayers' time and money is being wasted on all this. And because they were in a relationship, she gives him a cherry job, which he didn't even do, really. He went to Washington twice, clocked in, like I said, 8 hours on record? Charged a fortune for it. 1.2, 1.4 million or more. Incredible. Monkey says, if you ever need to find dirty secrets on someone, get Trump to court and open up the floodgates to fill in the rabbit hole. She shouldn't even be still on the case. And again, if she's going to go after him for denying, then shouldn't she go after Stacey Abrams for the same thing? She did that twice with 2 gubernatorial elections in Georgia. No one says anything to Stacey Abrams, and you can accuse her of misappropriating funds too. Fox News article. We're going to jump to Chicago. Chicago spent $80,000 to renovate the office of First Lady Johnson as city faces billion-dollar budget shortfall because it's all about me. Invoices and receipts from Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson's administration have raised new questions about extravagant spending as the city faces a nearly billion-dollar budget shortfall. They're in the red, nearly $1 billion. They don't have any money. Documents uncovered by local news station NBC5 revealed that in the grip of fiscal crisis, the city spent more than $80,000 to redecorate and renovate an office in the Chicago Cultural Center for First Lady Stacey Johnson, and that would be Brandon Johnson's wife. He's married to a woman? I'm sorry. I got thrown for a second. One more here. Fluke Man says only a sadist would say something like that in court. There's no reason to talk down at him in court other than to hurt him for fun, unless he did something that severely hurt her. Yeah, and even if he did, I mean, is that the place for it? You keep that mess to yourself. That's between the two of them. That's between the two of them. But yeah, I agree. That was highly inappropriate of her. Helter says Johnson dude acts like spending irresponsibly doesn't affect the city's finances. What a putz. I agree. And remember, this is Makeup Johnson, Pretty Boy Brandon, who has already been under fire in the press, in the media, for spending tens of thousands of dollars on hair and makeup treatments for himself. Hair, nails, barbershops, nail salons, and makeup artists. Tens of thousands. League has a suggestion as to what kind of wife he has. I'll just leave that right there for you. The way he acts, I mean, I can't tell. So it says the invoices and receipts obtained by NBC5 investigates through a series of Freedom of Information Act requests show that work order requests began in February and continued through August of this year to renovate and redecorate room 306 in the Chicago Cultural Center. Electricians, carpenters, and painters on the city's payroll were contracted for the work according to an invoice from the city's Fleet and Facility Management Department, also called 2FM NBC reports. The workers accrued more than 350 hours of labor at a cost of over $25,000. Another invoice reportedly shows the city paid more than $43,000 for furniture. Holy shit. Oh man. $43,000 for furniture. Man, I'll go to Goodwill and get some furniture, including a $2,200 office chair and a $4,400 desk labeled First Lady's Desk on the document. The city spent another $4,600 on a desk for a staffer and $8,300 on 2 club chairs. Oh, I love it. Confronted with the invoices and asked to defend the city's spending, Johnson told NBC, "So, the Cultural Center has always been a location for dignitaries. Even every First Lady, has had an office space there. Renovations for my office or any other office is standard procedure. Our commitment to invest in people is still to invest in people." He didn't answer the question. The mayor pushed back against follow-up questions about the optics of excessive spending at a time when his administration is considering layoffs of city workers to cut costs. Quote, "The purchase of a desk is not going to change the financial structural damage that has been in place for a very long time. So this is why we ask, and I mean this respectfully, we ask far more profound questions than that. We ask, how do we make sure that the structural damage that's been created over the course of decades, we reroute the rivers, if you will, to make sure that we get to the places where there is dry land. And that's what we're doing." What the hell does that mean? The reason that you're in the financial mess you're in is because of spending just like that. And he could have, pretty boy Johnson there, he could have just as easily, she doesn't need brand new renovation at all. Does she even need an office? There's a better question. People would have had a lot more respect for him if he sat there and he said, and that was why the reporter asked about the optics. You know what? The city's hurting, so we're just going to keep the office the way it is. I don't need nothing. People could respect that. People could respect that. This is somebody who doesn't care. All people says that, why is a pyramid growing out of the top of his head? That's the way his hair's cut. Because, he spends thousands on barbers. Fluke Man says, how much did he pay? Or should I say taxpayers pay to have his hair dyed black? Country says, one office, $80,000. Money could have gone to something good to help the citizens. Gary Edwards says, I'm going to bust some tabs. Chicago taxes in my pocket. I know. Country says his explanation sounds like Kamala's explanations. Monkey says people in Chicago voted for this. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. They went from bad to worse because Lightfoot wasn't nearly as bad as this guy. Let me look this up real quick. Here it is. This is the article that I had quoted before. I wanted to find it so I could reference it since I brought it up a couple of times here. I want to make sure for context for anyone who did not see it. Imagine says pretty boy narcissist. I know it. The Chicago Sun-Times. Mayor's pricey hair and makeup in 1 year. Brandon Johnson's campaign has spent over $30,000 on grooming, and this is him with his personal makeup artist. Johnson is mayor 24/7. A spokesman says appearances matter. Most of his spending went to a South Side makeup artist and a West Side barbershop. Yeah, no, he doesn't have to do all of that to be mayor. He just has to do the job. I mean, Fetterman doesn't have a makeup artist. He probably needs one. He's spending that much. He spent $30,000 last year on hair and makeup because he wanted to spend $30,000 on hair and makeup. $30,000 on makeup and haircuts. And when questioned about it, you might recall, because I read the article before, when they questioned him, he went immediately on the defensive and said, well, you're all just upset because I'm supporting Black-owned businesses, because I'm trying to support the Black community, and that's what it's all about. I'm sure it has nothing to do with Johnson's vanity. A man who needs daily makeup treatments and hair grooming to the tune of upwards more than $30,000 or more a year at the taxpayer's expense. It's repulsive. Monkey says, guess the people in Chicago like getting literally and figuratively screwed over and over again. There you go. Monkey had fixed it. I just wanted to pull that up to reference why I keep saying that. That's why I call him Pretty Boy Johnson. It's incredible, people. It's incredible. And they voted for this. No, he doesn't need the hair and makeup. How many times do you need to go to the barber? How often? Country says doesn't sound like he's a man. That's why I was surprised when they said he had a first lady. I'm sorry to say. Gary said Chicago taxes were the plot motivation for the Blues Brothers movie. That's right, because they had to pay the Cook County taxes to keep the church out of arrears. Nostalgia's here. He says, how do you feel about early voting? I only believe in absentee voting for the U.S. military. Early voting seems suspect. There's no reason for early voting. I don't trust any voting. I don't know if you were here earlier when I read the latest forms of intimidation that have been coming to us, letters from my wife, trying to intimidate her into going to the polls, telling her that they know whether or not she voted because it's a matter of public record. And there's Paul, wanted to say hi from New Jersey, the armpit. Oh, no. But yeah, early voting, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. And while those votes are sitting there for God knows how long, they could do damn near anything to them, and probably do. This is something I brought up yesterday, and I wanted to hit it again because I made another observation here. I had read the article, but I had not listened to him talk. And this is the Fox News article, a Fox News article. Family of mom whose suspected killer is a legal immigrant praises Clinton for calling out the Biden and Harris on the border. Okay, you all know this by now. He's trying to support Biden and Harris. Harris and Walls. They got their little camouflage hat because, oh, look, if we have camouflage, we'll get conservative votes and whatever nonsense they got going on there. Fluke Man says there are plenty of black barbers that do your hair for $50. Or who? Maybe. But I'm sure he doesn't have to spend thousands on a barber. That doesn't make any sense. And he doesn't have to spend thousands on a makeup artist. He don't need a makeup artist at all. He doesn't. It's pathetic. But in doing so, he put his foot in his mouth by saying that if it wasn't for the way that the border, there wasn't for the fact there's no vetting at the border, a murderer couldn't have kept ending up on the street because he'd been arrested a couple of times. And that, of course, is embarrassing the Harris administration. And the family is calling it out. As a matter of fact, her sister is in ads right now, practically in tears, talking about how that she fully blames Biden Harris for the death of her sister. I don't know if anyone has seen those ads. Okay. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but I made the observation that Bill looked really, really bad in the photo that I saw, the photo from the other article. that he looked really bad. Here we go. This is the picture, I think. He looks very drawn out. His eyes look yellow. They look kind of glazed over. It looks like he might have a liver problem. He looks really bad there. He was never a handsome guy anyways, but he looks bad there. Urban says here in Canada, British Columbians go to the polls for provincial election on Saturday. Let's hope for a conservative government to reverse socialism. Yeah, you guys are in it a hell of a lot deeper than we are north of the border there. But now that I listened to the audio clip, and I'm going to play it here for you, I've made another interesting observation, and I wonder if he has much time left on this earth.
You had a case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad.
Meet Stello, the powerful glucose.
Damn it. Let me fix that. Let me fix this. That was an ad trying to break through. One more time. Oh, my God. Now.
You had a case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened.
Okay. Now, here's my observation. I don't know how many people here have ever worked with or dealt with the elderly. Okay. Nostalgic here says about the voting process. Exactly. No one can convince me that an early electronic vote can be looked at early for the opposition to know how many fake ballots must be made. And he suggests that Clinton has AIDS. Country says, well, when you live with Hillary for that long, you're bound to look like that. No kidding. No kidding. Fluke Man says, has Biden-Harris said anything about the poor girl that got murdered by the illegal? Nothing. Nothing, to my knowledge. Okay? I haven't seen an article on it. Miss Kitty, come back. Miss Kitty. No, you're going to ignore me? My observation about this, if anyone has ever worked with the elderly or dealt with the elderly, I have. That breathlessness is a bad sign, where it sounds like you can barely make out what he's saying. So when he talks, he's kind of talking like this, and you can't quite get the word out, and and it sounds like that. Their lungs no longer have capacity. He can't draw in a big enough breath to complete a sentence. And when he does, it's very low. It's kind of strained. And it just kind of mumbles away and fades away. And you got to strain to understand what they're saying. They're getting close to the end when they're like that. That's not a good sign. And Brian made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Brian. Much appreciated. I'll get Miss Kitty over here. She'll step out of the doorway. She's sitting right there. Sitting right there, but she's occupied at the moment with some grooming. And Joe Doe says Biden called Lincoln Riley, who is a football coach. Did he? Because I haven't read much on that subject. I know what happened, but I didn't read that Biden or Harris had anything specifically to say about it. But that family 100% blames the Biden administration. They have flat out called it out. They 100% blame the Biden administration. Again, her sister is in campaign ads right now for Trump, not endorsed by Trump, but from another organization, where she's literally saying that Biden and Harris are responsible for her sister's death. Choking tears back. She means that. Yeah. And they are. No matter what Biden and Harris say, they're the ones, they can blame Trump, and they have been blaming Trump like he did something. He was trying to build a border wall and trying to keep people out. You brought the wall down. You threw the doors open. You told Border Patrol not to vet anybody anymore. Catch and release, catch and release. And this is where we're at. Imagine says, I bet Miss Key doesn't spend thousands on grooming. No. And Joe says, during the president's State of the Union, Marjorie Taylor Greene yelled at Biden, and Biden called her Lincoln. That's pathetic. That's pathetic. He probably meant Abraham Lincoln. he's so far gone. But speaking of being gone, we are at the top of the hour. So I will go ahead and start signing off. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk. And it's time. I'll put that up here really quick, Joe, so people can read it. It's time to sign off. If you are listening somewhere else, you can find me Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and Prepper University on YouTube at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. Special thanks to Rodney and to Brian for making donations to the channel today. Always appreciated. Goes a long way, folks. Thank you to everyone else who was able to join us here today. As always, hope you got something